welcome uh, to the model of radicalizations. Today we'll discuss the various definitions of radicalizations and how does that radicalizations will take place. So, academic definitions are, and descriptions uh, on that well-known author who wrote on Gehring 2007. He wrote that the process of personal development whereby an individual adopt ever more extreme political or political religious ideas and goals, becoming convinced that the attainment of these goals justifies the extreme methods. Again, that the demand schoolmate and Vijus Tital who wrote in his book that the definition of radicalization, a process of de-legitimation, a process in which confidence in the system it decreases and the individual retreats further and further into this or her own group because he or she no longer feels part of society. Again, that also wrote in 2009 that radicalization is a process of relative change in which a group undergoes ideological and or behavioral transformation that leads to the rejections of democratic political pluralism and possibly to the utilizations of violence or to an increase in the levels of violence to achieve political goals. So uh, these are the kind of the definitions uh, uh, mentioned by various author. Again, Olison he wrote in 2009 the process through which the individuals and the organizations adopt the violent strategies or threaten to do so in order to achieve the political goals. That Gethin's measure, he also wrote in 2009, uh, uh, collectively defined, individually felt moral obligations to participate in indirect actions, legal or illegal, or opposed to apathy. Again, that organ wrote in 2010 the social and the psychological process of incrementally experienced commitment to experiment the political or religious ideology. The Kotwing it all who wrote in 2010 the quest to drastically after society, possibly through the use of orthodox means which can result in a threat to the democratic structures and institutions. That Mandel he wrote in 2012 an increase in and or reinforcing to extreme in the thinking, sentiments, and or behavior of individual um, and or the group of individual things. Right. So these are kind of important definitions on radicalizations which mentioned in this PPT. So an individual or a collective group which process whereby that usually in situations of political polarizations, which normal practices of dialogue that compromise and the tolerance between political actors and groups with diverging interest are abandoned by one or both sides in a conflict that in favor of a growing commitment to engage in uh, confrontational tactics or conflicting ways. So these can that include either use of nonviolent pressures and coercion. So various that no that forms of political violence other than the terrorism or acts of violent extremism in the form of terrorism and war crimes. So so the process is on the side of rebel, which that factions generally accompanied by an ideological socializations which away from mainstream or status quo that oriented positions towards more radical or extreme positions which involve uh, Dictamon's world view and the acceptance of an alternative, the focal point of political mobilizations outside the dominant political order as the existing system is on it is no longer which is recognized as appropriate or legitimate. So again, these are the kind of definitions discussed by various scholar authors on radicalizations. So again, we'll discuss about how does the radicalizations take place. So we'll discuss to this the different types of radical groups which share that common that elements in the. So we'll discuss about first all radical groups which receive serious problems in society that are the different for each radical groups. Second, the radical groups are strongly that dissatisfied with the manner in which the current institutions, which the particularly policies or politicians deal with their problems. So these are kind of the second important um, that elements which we discuss. So they may argue that the institutions do not pay that enough attention to their that grievance, or they may think that the institutions do not do enough to handle their grievances. So this creates a low institutional trust and a perception that authorities are not that legitimate. So that important that third characteristic of radical groups is that they consider their own groups which norms and values as superior to those of other groups. So this creates an strong us versus them distinctions which might form the foundation of the use of violence. And fourth, that elements which we'll discuss how the characteristics of radical groups is particularly important, which most such groups which embrace in ideology that legitimates violence to address their that concern, and this violence is often directed as at the out group viewed as the culprit that responsible for creating the grievances. So the most clearly articulated in the applications of social identity theory to radicalizations, in which that identification with the in group, which combined with these identifications with the out group, are related to the use of violence against out group members, right? So these are the kind of model. These are the diagrams will help to understand about the phases of radicalizations. We'll see in three phases. First phase sensitivity, second phase the group of membership, and third phase the actions. So it's very easy to understand about these three phases, which in micro and meso. So how that radicalization and de-radicalizations work. So most terrorists are not that mentally ill. Rather, the terrorism is a result of a radicalization process in steps can happen to normal people. So the radicalizing persons forms the central elements in our model. So this that person which follows three phases during the radicalization process. First, the sensitivity we discussed earlier, and second, that the group membership, and the third, action phase. Whether or not this that persons will follow all these phases, it depends on factors and the three levels, which macro individual, meso group, and the micro the societal level. At all the three level, however, that the persons may be protected against the radical influence by the shield of resilience. Then that halfway the group of membership phases, the shield of resilience turns around. The radical group is making the person resilient against that de-radicalization's influences from outside the group. Right. So you can see that the phases of radicalizations in micro level about the sensitivity. So phase one of that radicalizations regarding sensitivity, which factors within the persons that may influences his the process. In this phase, important driving factors which concern the quest for significance. So, feeling of that significance can be caused by a loss of status, a strong sense of humiliation, or poor career prospects, which personal failure, criminal activities, or and drug abuses. So these radical groups well equipped to foster or restore feelings of significance by providing recruits with a sense of belongingness, which respects heroism, status, and that notion of to fight for a holy cause. Second point, which important to driving factors, is that personal uncertainty. When the people feel uncertain, they become motivated to identify strongly with a group that reduces their uncertainty by providing them with clear norms and values. Right? So radical groups are particularly able to do this as they have a clear profile, offer a solid structures and a black and white worldview, like jihadi groups, orthodox, with well developed that behavioral rules, attractive for people who experience that personal uncertainty. So in a phase of that radicalizations in meso and micro level. So the phase one of radicalizations in intensity in both meso and micro level, that factor and the meso level, that radicalizations phases is likely to depend on the social environment like friends, family, and other groups. And important driving factors as this meso level is that fraternal, that relative, that deprivations, the feeling of injustice that people experiences when they identify with their group and that pursue that their groups has been that treated worse than another group, right? And the Muslims in Europe which experience this in the terms of housing, education opportunity, world, that work and income. So that friendship and family, the people are and the are social being, and this makes them that vulnerable to the social influence from the people choose which close to them and with whom they have frequent contact. So the true for jihadi warriors as well, that extremist groups supply that individuals with a strong sense of a group belongingness, which is a basic human needs, and a clear image of a evil outdoor groups, which creating a strong which intergroups dynamics. And if you see about in micro levels, the process of radicalization is partly influenced by the larger societal factors uh, that accepting the dominance group of the forms in important driving factors to which radical um, Muslims. Right. So these are kind of phase number two radicalizations. These are the kind of phase of radicalization which in action, and these are kind of important. These three pages three also important for to understand. Uh, so thank you.